Revealed, how a poor cleaner showed incredible courage to save a millionaire's son from a drain. Mia sat on a faded park bench, the sun warm on her skin as she watched her children, Jake and Lily, race through the playground, their laughter a bright melody in the otherwise stark reality of her life. As a single mother juggling 3 cleaning jobs just to make ends meet, it was these moments that filled her heart with joy. However, just beyond the playground, the grand homes of the Connors and other affluent families loomed, their manicured lawns a constant reminder of the gap that separated her world from theirs. Mia could feel their judgment like an invisible weight, a scorn that told her she was invisible, mere background noise in their lives. Today, she pushed those thoughts aside, letting her kids' happiness wash over her like sunlight, but then everything changed. Young Bradley, the millionaire's son, darted dangerously close to the edge of a storm drain. A gasp rippled through the crowd as he slipped and tumbled into the dark abyss. The chatter faded into frantic whispers. Parents, well-dressed and flustered, fumbled for their phones to call for help, casting doubt and judgment on one another about who could handle the situation. Time seemed to twist and stretch, but Mia's instincts kicked in. She had spent countless hours cleaning cramped spaces, crawling through dark basements and tight corners. This was nothing compared to the claustrophobia she had faced before. She could hear the faint cries of Bradley echoing from the drain as the shock of the moment coursed through the onlookers. Suddenly, Mia felt a shift and urgent fire ignited within her. She shed her self-doubt and, without a second thought, leapt into action. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the eyes of the community on her, some wide with admiration, others narrowed with disbelief. Mia climbed down into the drain. The darkness was overwhelming. Each scrape against the rough edges of the concrete sent a jolt of panic through her chest, but she pushed it down, deeper than the fear. The cries grew louder, pulling her forward. She thought of Jake and Lily and the lessons they needed to learn about courage and love. Just then, a tremor shook the ground, debris suddenly raining down, blocking her way. A collective gasp echoed above her from the wealthy parents who only moments ago judged her worth. Their voices melded into a chaotic mess of disbelief and fear. Mia fought against the rubble, heart pounding, awareness washing over her that this was about more than just saving Bradley. It was about breaking the chains of their prejudice. In that moment, when she locked eyes with Bradley, she felt the weight of their differences slip away. His frightened expression was a mirror of her internal struggles. Heart racing, Mia pushed forward, determined. She had become more than just a cleaner, she had become a beacon of hope. But would she be able to reach him before time ran out? The clock was ticking, and the stakes were higher than ever. Mia's resolve would be put to the ultimate test. Mia's heart thudded in her ears, each beat a reminder of the urgency pressing on her. She squeezed her way through the debris, sharp stones grazing her skin, but she barely felt the pain. The only thing that mattered was Bradley's voice, echoing deep within the darkness. She could sense time slipping, each second adding weight to the desperation in his cries. "Hold on, Bradley. I'm coming," she shouted, her voice barely rising above the distant sobs of fear from the crowd. She couldn't back down now. As she crawled deeper into the drain, the air became thick with the scent of damp earth and metal, each breath a struggle. Mia imagined her kids' small, innocent faces waiting for her back on the surface, and it fueled her determination. She envisioned Jake's adventurous spirit and Lily's sweet smile, and she pushed on, inch by inch. Suddenly, the path opened up slightly, and her fingers brushed against something small and warm. Panic bubbled in her chest, but as she reached out, she felt the soft fabric of a shirt, a lifeline. There he was, huddled against the wall of the drain, tears shining like raindrops on his cheeks. "Bradley, I've got you," Mia called out, her voice quaking with emotion. She lingered just long enough to assure him she was there. "We're getting out of here." But as she grabbed his arm, a deep rumble reverberated through the tunnel. It felt as if the earth itself had protested her intrusion, shaking loose more debris that cascaded down like a shower of stones. "Stay close to me," she urged, panic clawing at her throat. If they didn't move, they would be buried under the very rubble that had separated them. With a surge of strength, fueled by the desperation of the moment, she pulled Bradley to his feet. He stumbled, clinging to her as they navigated the crumbling path. Together, they pushed against the fall of rocks, struggling against gravity and fear. Above them, more gasps erupted from the crowd, their disbelief turning into active concern. "Help is on the way," shouted a voice from the surface, but it felt a world away. Mia could sense the crowd's growing anxiety. Would they really stand by, as they had before? "Just a little further," Mia coaxed, feeling Bradley's small frame tremble against her. He was frail but resilient, his fear mixed with a flicker of hope as he gazed up at her. Mia's mind raced. She wasn't just a cleaner anymore, she was a lifeline. As they inched forward, a sharp rock cut into her palm, and she winced, but she didn't pause to think about the pain. All that mattered was Bradley. He had his whole life ahead of him, full of possibilities that she wanted him to experience. "I promise we'll get out. Just trust me." A small nod from Bradley spurred her on. Back at the surface, gasps turned to worried murmurs. Parents held their breath, eyes wide with fear. But a realization settled over them: this brave woman from the underground, the one they had so easily overlooked, was in the fight of her life for their son. A sudden cracking noise echoed through the drain, sending another wave of panic sky-high. "I think it's collapsing," someone yelled, and the crowd surged, on the verge of panic, but Mia couldn't afford to think about what might happen next. Every moment counted. She swept her arm around Bradley, guiding him forward with urgency. "We have to go now." And just as they stumbled into a tiny space that felt like salvation, Mia's world tilted again. "Look out!" A new crash of rubble thundered down. In an instant, the tunnel shifted, and the escape route that had felt so close was crumbling away behind them. Would they both make it out? The looming question pressed heavily against the walls of the drain. With every ounce of will she had left, Mia pushed forward, unwilling to let fear drown her spirit. She could smell freedom on the other side, a glimpse of light breaking through the darkness. Would it be enough to save them both? The dust swirled around them, growing denser as the crashing sound echoed more violently. Mia felt the tremors beneath her feet, the world shifting like quicksand. Holding Bradley tightly, she sensed his fear mixing with her own wet, hot urgency flooding through them. "Stay close," she urged again, steel in her voice. She couldn't let fear fuel them, she had to be their anchor. They navigated the tight space, dodging jagged rocks and twisted metal. Mia's breath came in fast, staccato bursts, but she didn't allow herself to succumb to the exhaustion that clawed at her. Each shallow intake of air was laced with a faint hope, for the air ahead was less oppressive, carrying just a hint of sunlight. "Where are we going?" Bradley's voice trembled, a small plea against the chaos surrounding them. "To the light," she shouted back, grasping his arm tighter, her heart racing with each desperate step they took. The darkness was sneaky, pressing against her, trying to swallow them whole. Suddenly, a low rumble reverberated through the ground like a growl. In a split second, debris fell around them, blocking their way. Mia's heart dropped. "No, no," she panted, panic bubbling up. She spun, eyes scanning for any sign of escape. Around them, the walls felt like close enemies, ganging up. "We can't go back," Mia stated, determination replacing panic. "We have to find a way." As if sensing her resolve, Bradley's eyes widened with something she could hardly describe. Maybe it was fear, or perhaps that little spark of belief that they could still make it through. "Can we climb over?" he asked shakily, pointing to a section of fallen rocks, where the highest point looked precariously low. Yes. Let us do it. With a burst of energy, they scrambled to the pile. Bradley followed her, his small hands trembling but eager. They climbed, urging one another upwards, and as Mia hoisted herself over the last of the rocks, she turned to help him. With carefully timed movements, they slid down the other side, breathless. And there it was, the glimmer of light growing brighter, almost as if it was inviting them home. Keep going, she said, pulling Bradley forward. They moved faster now, their rhythm a dance of desperation and hope, but just as they neared the beam of light, another cracking sound rang out, louder and more menacing than before. The earth trembled beneath them again. Mia's heart stopped. Instinct kicked in. She shoved Bradley ahead, urging him on as she turned to face the collapsing tunnel once more. Run! Don't look back! Adrenaline surged through her veins, and she raced after him. The tunnel was sacrificing itself, but she wouldn't let it take them both. They had come this far, it was not the end. As they breached the tunnel's mouth, a flood of warmth and light enveloped them. Mia stumbled, bracing herself against the hard ground, her eyes blinking against the brightness. There, just a few feet away, the shocked faces of the onlookers looked back, parents, friends, strangers, united in bewilderment. Bradley! A woman screamed from amongst the crowd. The familiar face of his mother pushed through. Mia watched Bradley's face light up, the fear that had momentarily written his features washed away in an instant. But all at once, reality slammed into Mia. As she turned to embrace the light, her legs buckled beneath her. Exhaustion surged like a wave, threatening to pull her back into darkness. The crowd surged forward, trying to help. Are you okay? Someone asked, their voice muffled in her dizziness. She nodded, blinking against the warmth of rescue, but her heart raced. She had saved a life today, but at what cost? Before she could fully process it, a piercing scream jolted her. Someone's still down there. The crowd gasped, eyes wide as they turned back toward the drain. Mia's heart sank as a new weight settled on her chest. Who else needed saving? Could she muster the strength to go back? The answer loomed like shadows beneath her feet as she fought against the oncoming tide of panic and uncertainty. Mia's breath hitched in her throat as she listened to the echoes of panic ripple through the crowd. Everyone was frozen, eyes darting toward the black maw of danger they had barely escaped. But she felt something deeper, a pull, a sense of responsibility that swamped her instincts to hide, to run away from the chaos. Please, someone help. The voice from the drain was muffled, but it carried an urgent plea that slithered into Mia's heart. Fear gnawed at her insides, but it was overshadowed by a fierce determination. She couldn't let despair take root. Bradley! She called out, urgency flooding every word. He turned back toward her, still intertwined with his mother, bewilderment and relief battling for dominance on his face. Stay here. Wait. No. Bradley protested vehemently. His tiny body squeezed between the adults flocking around, trying to reach her. But Mia couldn't wait for them. There was someone down there, someone who needed the same chance she had just fought so hard for. With a deep breath, she gathered herself and approached the edge of darkness once more. The onlookers parted like reluctant waves, their expressions a mix of awe and fear as if they sensed the magnitude of her impending choice. Mia, don't! Shouted a voice from the crowd. It was a man, his brow furrowed in concern. It's too dangerous. But Mia had already committed. She was stepping back into the shadows, every instinct in her body screaming. The soft illumination from behind her flickered and dimmed as she descended into the belly of the beast once again. Hello. She called out, her words echoing off the jagged walls. The air grew thick, and the dust danced around with a life of its own. She could barely see in the fading light, but fear narrowed her focus. Each step felt heavier, the earth trembling beneath her as she grasped at long-buried memories of strength. Mia. The voice, slightly clearer now. It was a young man, panic punctuating his tone. I can't, I'm stuck. Mia felt her heart race, every beat a reminder of how close she was to peril. I'm coming. Just hold on. Navigating was harder now. The once familiar terrain felt like a twisted maze of terror. She paused to steady her breathing, closing her eyes briefly to summon the courage surging within her. Hang on. Her voice came out stronger than intended, reassuring both of them. Finally, she stumbled upon him, a younger man pinned by a pile of rubble, his face pale and streaked with grime. Thank God, he gasped, relief flooding into his voice as he spotted Mia. I'll get you out. The resolve in her words startled her, but as she knelt beside him, strength surged through her with a fierce intensity. Together, they could do this. Is it too heavy? He gasped between labored breaths, his face trying to force a smile despite the fear dancing in his eyes. No, not if we do it together, Mia reassured him, swallowing the doubt that whispered in the back of her mind. On 3, 1, 2, 3. They pushed, grunting against the weight of despair, and slowly, the beam shifted. Inch by inch, they carved out a path. A rush of exhilaration surged through Mia, drowning out the aches in her muscles. Keep going. Just a bit more. She urged, sweat glistening on her brow. Just then, the earth shook violently again, and she felt the tunnel shift beneath them, a warning clamor. Panic washed over the young man's face. What if it collapses? Then we run. She shouted, glancing towards where daylight should be spilling in. Would they make it? The only thing she could do was hold on to hope, like a lifeline tethering her from the edge of fear. With a final push, they freed him, and instinctively he clutched her arm. They scrambled to their feet, blending determination with urgency as they dashed toward the fading light of safety, but just as they reached the exit, the ground beneath them lurched. Mia felt the rush of gravity pulling her back into the abyss, her heart pounding, fierce and erratic. Mia. The young man grabbed her hand, but could they both escape? What would it take for her to conquer the darkness that threatened to reclaim them both? Would they reach safety or be sucked back into desperation? The ground rumbled ominously, and uncertainty weighed heavily on her spirit. Mia's heart thrummed in her chest like a wild drum, the pull of gravity competing with the desperate clench of the young man's hand. She felt the ground shift again, reminded of the fleeting nature of safety. In that split second, fear twisted like a knife in her gut, deepening her resolve. Hold on tight. She shouted, her voice a mix of bravery and panic. She glanced at the chaos behind them, people screaming, the dust swirling in a thick haze. Each second spent down there felt like an eternity, and she wouldn't let it end in tragedy. With a surge of strength driven by adrenaline, Mia tugged at the young man's hand. We can do this. Just move back towards the light. She felt each of his ragged breaths against her, each a reminder of their shared peril. Together, they stumbled backward, inching toward salvation. The light grew brighter, but the rumble beneath them escalated, threatening to swallow them whole. The young man's face, streaked with grime and fear, flickered with hope. I can't believe we made it this far. He gasped. Just a little more. She panted, locking eyes with him. We are not giving up. At the last moment, the ground quaked violently, almost knocking them over. The collapse haunted them like a specter, but Mia was fueled by something deeper than just survival. It was the thought that someone else was depending on her, Bradley, her little brother, the weight of his trust resting on her shoulders. Mia. The voice echoed behind them, shrill and filled with desperation. Bradley. She turned her head. He stood at the edge, eyes wide, arms raised, pleading. Keep going. He cried, you can do it. A jolt of energy surged through her, drawing her back to the task at hand. With a final push, she pulled the young man closer. Bursting through the opening, they tumbled into daylight, collapsing on the ground just outside the gaping drain. Gasping for breath and covered in dirt, Mia looked up to find Bradley barreling towards her. Mia. he cried, throwing himself into her arms. She felt his small body shake with emotion, his laughter mingling with tears. "I was so scared," he sobbed, clinging to her like she was a lifeline. Mia hugged him tightly, relief flooding through her veins. They were safe. They had made it, but as she turned back to the young man, who lay propped up beside her, she noticed the shock in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered, lips trembling. "You saved my life." Mia's heart swelled with pride. It wasn't just about survival, it was about courage and connection even in the darkest of times. However, the moment shifted as distant shouts reached her ears. From the crowd, the man from before still looming with his furrowed brow made his way closer. His expression flickered between concern and disbelief. "You shouldn't have gone in there." Mia could feel the crowd closing in again, their gazes heavy with mixed emotions. Did they see her as a hero or just a reckless girl who chased danger into the dark? As the tension hung thick in the air, the young man shifted, glancing over at Mia once more. "What is your name?" he asked, his voice steadier now. "Mia," she replied, her heart still racing. That he smiled, a genuine one that broke through the panic. "I owe you one, Mia." But before she could respond, an explosion of noise erupted from behind them. The mouth of the drain, now swarming with rescuers and officials, stirred chaos again. There was more danger to face, and she could feel it press against her chest like the looming weight of uncertainty. As the crowd began to scatter, the urgency swelled around them. What other secrets lay hidden beneath the surface? And how would they all confront the unfolding storm on the streets above? Mia took a deep breath as she glanced at Bradley, then back to the young man, determination sparking anew in her chest. They weren't finished yet. Not by a long shot. Mia's pulse quickened as the chaos surrounding them sharpened into focus. The thrumming energy of the crowd seemed to underscore the confusion. She felt a mix of elation and dread. It was a strange contradiction, that moment of victory over the tremors beneath them, only to see danger rise anew like a tide. Bradley remained glued to her side, his wide eyes darting back and forth. "What is happening?" he asked, his voice a thin whisper. "I don't know," Mia replied, keeping her tone steady. "But we have to stay close." Spotting the young man beside her, she helped him to sit up. "Are you okay?" she asked, noticing that he grimaced as he shifted. "I think so. Just trying to catch my breath," he said, wiping dirt from his face and revealing a cut on his brow. The sight tugged at Mia's heart. Before she could reassure him, the man with the furrowed brow broke through the crowd. He reached them, his gaze shifting from the young man to Mia. "You shouldn't have gone into that drain. It was too risky." Mia felt anger swell within her. "I couldn't just stand by while someone was in danger." He sighed but softened a bit. "I get it, Mia, but you don't know what is still lurking down there." His expression turned serious. "There could be more structural collapses. We need to secure the area, and you two shouldn't be here." "Aren't you the one who said to help people?" the young man piped up. His voice was steady despite the exhaustion etched on his face. The man blinked in surprise, momentarily speechless. Mia seized the moment. "It's not just about what happened down there. It's about taking action when you see someone in trouble, no matter who they are or what it means for you." "But what if it costs you?" the man shot back, eyes glistening with concern. Mia felt the weight of his question settle over her. She wanted to scream that she would take that risk again and again for those she loved. "Then it costs me. But saving lives, protecting those we care about, that's what matters most." Bradley gripped her hand tighter, his small fingers trembling. The crowd buzzed with murmurs, and for a moment, the noise faded into the background. Mia wasn't just fighting for the strangers anymore. Her heart beat for her brother, for every child, for every soul caught in devastation. Just then, a loud crash reverberated from the drain. Dust ricocheted into the air, and gasps echoed through the crowd. Figures in uniforms darted forward, their shouts rising. The urgency crackled like electricity. We need to evacuate this area. Now. An officer yelled, moving towards the crowd. Mia's instincts kicked in again. We can't just leave them. If there are others trapped, are you crazy? The man snapped, taking hold of her arm. You'll get yourself killed. She pulled away, her eyes fierce. What if that were your brother? The confrontation rang with an unyielding truth. The young man nodded at Mia, his expression reflecting fierce empathy. We can't abandon them. We have to help. The man stepped back, wrestling with his decision. The two of them were just kids, yet they exuded an intense strength that forced respect. In that instant, Mia felt the world pivot. The ground beneath her was unstable, but so were the lives they were trying to save. There was no time left to hesitate. We're going back, she declared, glancing at Bradley, who stared wide-eyed. Are you sure? He asked softly. We have to try, she breathed, determination flooding her veins. As they moved towards the drain, the distant wailing of sirens lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of the dangers still lurking and those yet to be uncovered. Together? The young man asked, stepping up beside her. Together, Mia affirmed, ready to face whatever came next, but with each step they took, an unsettling thought gnawed at her. What if they didn't make it back? What other dangers lay waiting beneath the surface? With resolve hardening in her chest, Mia knew one truth: their journey had just begun. Mia steadied her breath as they approached the yawning gap of the drain. The chaos and fear around them only fueled her urgency. Beside her, Bradley looked up, his small frame shaking slightly. She placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder, exuding the confidence she wished she could feel. Stay close, okay? She whispered. He nodded, letting out a shaky breath, and tightened his grip on her hand. The closer they got, the more the smell of damp earth and decay wrapped around them, twisting up Mia's stomach. But she couldn't turn back now. Every step was weighed down with the fear of the unknown, but also with the hope that they could make a difference. That in the distance, voices shouted orders. Emergency responders were forming a perimeter, their flashlights dancing erratically as they searched for signs of life. Mia's heart raced, urging her to move faster. We have to find anyone still in there, she said to the young man, whose name slipped her mind. I'm with you, he replied, his voice steady despite the crisis hanging around them like a thick fog. But we need a plan. If there are more collapses, we go in together, Mia interrupted, her voice firm. We stick together. They reached the drain's edge, peering down into the dark. Mia could barely make out the debris that littered the bottom, but she felt a surge of adrenaline flood her veins. The shadows whispered of hidden dangers, but they also held the possibility of life. Someone could be waiting for help. Suddenly, a shrill cry pierced through the air. It was distant yet unmistakable. Mia's gut twisted. Did you hear that? She asked, anxiety coiling around her words. Yeah, the young man replied, his eyes wide. We need to go now. She looked back at Bradley, who was trying to peer over the edge but seemed hesitant. You stay up here, okay? If we don't come back, you have to find someone to know. He tugged at her hand, his voice rising. I'm going with you. Mia swallowed hard, torn between protecting her brother and bringing him along. Bradley, you have to trust me. His eyes shimmered with tears, frustration etched across his small face. I don't want to lose you. Those words hit her like a punch. Bradley wasn't just her brother, he was her heart. Those moments of fear mirrored the very spirals of her own dread. Listen. I promise I'll be careful. I'll come back. We all will. With a deep breath, she turned back to the drain, determination etched in every line of her face. The young man, sensing the urgency, began scanning the area, looking for any tools that might help them stabilize the loose rocks or debris. Mia joined him, her heart racing with every second that ticked by. What if they didn't find anyone? What if she led them into something bigger, more dangerous? Where's the rescue team? Mia hissed under her breath, spotting more movement in the distance. The air was thick with tension, yet she forged ahead, compelled by the possible lives that hung in the balance. When they finally gathered a few makeshift tools, the three of them prepared for descent. Mia knew there was no going back from this decision. They were on the brink of something that could change everything. Just as they began to lower themselves into the darkness, the ground trembled again, a low rumble that shook Mia to her core. What was that? She gasped, her heart pounding in her chest. The young man grabbed her arm, eyes wide with fear. We need to hurry. As they stepped into the dark tunnel, Mia's heart raced with dread and hope. Each echo reminded her of the stakes, the lives on the line. They were chasing shadows, but also the glimmer of hope. Then, through the darkness, she heard it again, a faint cry, urgent and insistent. Follow me, Mia whispered, adrenaline driving her forward. But who, or what, awaited them in that abyss? With their first step into the unknown, it was as if they were barreling down a tunnel with no end in sight. Dread began to knot itself in the pit of her stomach, but so did a fierce resolve. What if they weren't prepared for what came next? After all, every life they aimed to save was not only a lost soul but a mirror of what might happen if they didn't succeed. The darkness swallowed them whole, the air thick and stale, wrapping around Mia like a heavy shroud. Each step further down felt like a plunge into an abyss, not just of earth and stone but into the depths of her own fears. She turned to Bradley, his small face strained, eyes wide in the faint light. Stay close. I mean it, she reminded him, her voice low but firm. They moved slowly, the sound of their footsteps echoing ominously through the tunnel. Mia's heart drummed in her chest, a frantic tempo syncopating with her thoughts. What if they were too late? What if they walked into a trap? The uncertainty pressed down on her like the weight of the earth above them. In the distance, she discerned the faint sound of the cry again, a low whimper that tugged at her heartstrings. Was that a child? They pressed onward with renewed urgency, the prospect of finding another alive, a flicker of hope igniting in Mia's chest. We're getting closer, she whispered, convinced her words could bend reality. The tunnel twisted and turned, its rough-hewn walls a cacophony of shadows. The dim beam of their flashlights danced nervously against the unsettlement of the darkness. Every breath felt like it could be their last, the air thickening with moisture that made Mia want to gag. As they rounded a corner, the faint echo of the cry morphed into something more distinct, a voice calling for help. It was small, quaking with fear, and it sent a rush of energy through Mia's veins. This way, she urged, quickening her pace. The young man followed, his face set with determination. In that moment, they were united, bound by a single purpose. The weight of the world momentarily lifted from Mia's shoulders. Bradley clung desperately to her hand, his tiny fingers almost losing their grip as they hurried forward. Help. Please. Somebody. The voice grew clearer. It was a child. Mia's heart surged. Hang on. We're coming. She cried out, her desperate shout swallowed immediately by the oppressive darkness. But the sound of her own voice, laced with courage, sparked something within her. They were not alone in this fight. Finally, they arrived at an opening. It was a larger chamber, illuminated faintly by the beams of their flashlights, revealing twisted metal and heaps of rubble. In the corner, huddled against the debris, was a small boy, dirt streaked across his cheeks, eyes wet with tears. Mia felt her heart lurch at the sight. Stay back! Shouted the young man, instinctively stepping in front of Mia and Bradley. Let me check for hazards first. Mia's pulse quickened as she looked at Bradley. It's okay, buddy. We're going to help him, she said softly, trying to calm both her brother and herself. She squeezed his hand reassuringly, her eyes locked on the frightened boy. As the young man carefully navigated through the twisted debris, Mia took a calming breath, her heart racing in anticipation. You're going to be all right, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. The boy's eyes met hers, and in that moment, Mia felt a connection. They shared something unspoken, a bond of hope and fear. Just then, the ground trembled again, dust raining down from the ceiling above as panic surged through Mia. "We need to hurry," she urged, adrenaline surging anew. It was as if the earth itself was warning them, the boy whimpered, shrinking further back. "I'm scared." "Don't be," she said, kneeling to be eye level with him. "We're here. We'll get you out. Just hold on." With each passing second, the air felt heavier, charged with urgency. The sounds of collapsing earth echoed continuously in her ears. The young man moved debris away, creating a path, but as he cleared the last obstacle, Mia's breath caught in her throat. "What is it?" he gasped, eyes widening in disbelief. "What's wrong?" she echoed, fear creeping into her voice. Before he could reply, the chamber rumbled violently, shaking the ground beneath them. The light flickered before plunging them all into an encroaching darkness once more. "Run! We have to get out!" Mia shouted, instinctively grabbing Bradley with one hand and the boy with the other, urgency flooding her every action. They were thrust into chaos, the sound of falling rock echoing louder than anything Mia had ever heard. Suddenly, in the midst of the scrambling panic, a shadowy figure loomed near. Who, or what, awaited them now? Would they find safety, or would the darkness choose to consume them all? The ground shook violently as Mia scrambled to her feet, dragging both boys with her. The flashlights flickered in and out, casting eerie shadows that danced along the grimy walls. Each tremor felt like an ominous heartbeat of the collapsing cave, spurring her on with a fear that ignited adrenaline in her veins. "Stick together," she urged, glancing back at the young man as he fought to keep the ceiling from falling in on them. His face was pale, determination pinched around his lips. Suddenly, the shadowy figure shifted in the darkness, and Mia's heart raced. It was closer now, its form indistinct but undeniably present. "What are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling with fear and uncertainty. "Please. We have to move," the young man shouted, awareness dawning on him as he saw the looming presence. He motioned for Mia to follow him toward a narrow passage that seemed to offer a way out. The boys clung to Mia, their little bodies trembling in sync with the tremors of the earth. She couldn't let the darkness take them. She couldn't lose anyone. "Keep moving," she insisted, pushing against the urge to look back. She kept her focus on the faint glimmer of light at the end of the passage, a beacon of hope among the swirling chaos. "Wait!" the young man yelled suddenly, his voice laced with urgency. "Something's coming from behind." Mia's stomach dropped. The darkness behind them felt alive, as if it were reaching out with monstrous hands. She felt Bradley squeeze her hand tighter, his little nails digging into her skin. "Don't be scared, Bradley," she whispered, though her own heart was a drum of panic. They rushed forward, the echo of rubble falling heavy around them, a symphony of destruction that threatened their very existence. She glanced back, daring the darkness to swallow her hopes whole, but what she saw made her stop short. The figure was clearer now, emerging from the shadows, an old man, his hair wild and eyes wide with terror. "Help!" he cried, stumbling toward them. "I'm trapped. Please." Mia's heart wrenched. "We can't leave him," she said, torn between saving one more person and ensuring the three of them made it out alive. "No. Keep going," the young man shouted, eyes darting to the trembling walls, panic rising. "We have to go." The boy in her grip whimpered, pulling at her shirt. "I don't want to die." Mia looked at the old man, standing helpless among the rubble, desperation etched on his face. He was a stranger, but his plea dug into her resolve. "What if he can help us get out?" she thought, quickly weighing her choices. "Just hold on," she said, her voice now steadier, clearer than the chaos around them. "We're going to help you." Mia began moving toward the old man, instinctively letting go of the boys just enough to make her reach, but suddenly the ground quaked violently once more, and rocks rained down like a storm. "No. We need to move," the young man yelled, fear evident in every syllable that it was now or never. Mia's gut twisted with the urgency of a choice laden with hope and heartache. "Bradley! Hold on tight!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the rumble. "What are you doing?" the young man asked, panic-stricken, but she didn't answer. Summoning every ounce of courage, she positioned herself between Bradley, the stranger, and the crumbling tunnel. "Grab his hand," she urged. The old man stretched towards them, his eyes pleading. Just as Bradley reached out, the passage overhead groaned, a horrid sound of creaking earth that sent waves of dread down Mia's spine. "Move!" she yelled again, feeling the earth shift once more, momentum carrying them all into the thickening tension of the unknown. Would they escape the darkness together? Or would the cave's final tremor seal their fate in the suffocating shadows? The air thickened with uncertainty as they pressed forward, fear mingling with the flickers of hope that kept them pushing through. Mia's heart raced as she led Bradley and the young boy toward the old man. The ground trembled beneath them, threatening to swallow their hopes whole. She could feel the despair clinging to the air, but stronger still was her determination to help. "Grab his hand," Mia urged, forcing herself to act despite the terror swelling in her chest. The old man reached out, fingers trembling with desperation. "Just trust us," Bradley yelled, bravely stretching his hand toward the stranger. With a swift pull, they pulled the old man to his feet, but the cave responded with a deafening roar. Dust and small rocks began to rain down, and Mia knew they had mere moments. "We need to go now," she shouted, urgency slicing through the chaos. Together they took off down the narrow passage, hearts pounding in unison. Behind them, the sounds of the cave collapsing echoed, a cacophony of fear and danger. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown, but Mia could sense a glimmer of hope in the faint light ahead. "Almost there," she shouted. As they pressed forward, the old man stumbled, nearly falling behind. Without thinking, Mia reached back to grab his arm, pulling him close. "We've got you," she said, her voice steady even as panic churned within her. "We're not leaving anyone behind," the young man shouted, determination hardening his voice. Mia could see the others ahead almost within reach. A wave of relief washed over her, but before they could fully close the distance, the ground quaked violently again. The passageway shrieked, and something large and heavy crashed behind them. "Run!" she yelled, fear blazing in her eyes. They broke into a sprint, the light ahead growing brighter, but the rumble of destruction echoed ever closer. Just as they reached the mouth of the tunnel, the earth behind them exploded in a flurry of stone and dust. Mia felt a rush of wind as rocks tumbled down, blocking the way they had come. They had made it out, falling into the fresh air. Mia gasped, heart pounding. The world around her was alive with chaos, but they were safe. She could see Bradley's face, smeared with dirt but filled with uncontainable joy. "Mia! You did it!" he shouted, and in that moment, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Their escape did not go unnoticed. The crowd of onlookers erupted in cheers, disbelief morphing into celebration. The parents who had once looked past her now stared in awe, their judgment giving way to admiration. The young man crouched down beside her, his breath heavy but his spirit unwavering. "You were incredible," he said with sincerity, eyes shining with gratitude. They both turned to the old man, still a bit shaky but now gripping Mia's shoulder with a firm hand. "Thank you," he said, choked with emotion. "You saved my life. I owe you everything." Mia felt a flood of warmth at his words. It wasn't just about saving lives, it was about finding deeper connections, about being seen, and about courage that transcended social divides. But just as joy began to settle, she noticed another figure rushing toward them, Bradley's mother. A whirlwind of emotions flickered through Mia's chest as she moved to embrace his mother, who was nearly sobbing with relief. "I thought I lost you." "I'm okay, Mom," Bradley exclaimed, looking more than a little bashful at the attention. Mia stood back, observing the reunion unfold. She felt a little shy but also warm inside. She had redefined herself today. She wasn't just the cleaner from the neighborhood anymore, she was a hero. Mia turned to the crowd, their faces still showing disbelief mixed with newfound respect. We can't let fear hold us back. We need to take care of each other. No life is less valuable than another. Every one of us can make a difference. A murmur spread through the onlookers, and cheers erupted again, sounding louder than before. Those whispers of doubt transformed into gratitude. The shadows that once dimmed her spirit faded away. She had changed today. With deep breaths, she met the gaze of the young man and nodded, acknowledging their shared journey. He grinned back, a mutual understanding passing between them. As she finally turned back to her children, Bradley and Lily rushed into her arms. Mia held them tightly, knowing the moment would remain forever etched in her heart. The day she leapt into darkness and emerged into the light, not just for herself, but for others. She glanced at the crowd, a newfound connection blossoming in her heart. They had weathered the storm together. Soon they would realize they were stronger as a community. And from that day forward, Mia promised herself she'd never shy away from fighting for others, not just for her own. This was her moment, a beginning, not an end. Everyone around her erupted in cheers once more, celebrating life, courage, and hope. As the sun brightened the horizon, Mia raised her head high, embracing the future while the cheers rang clearly in the air. Together, they would build a light that echoed louder than fear. Now, let us take this momentum and push forward. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support truly matters. Comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. Your voice deserves to be heard. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand how vital it is to support the channel.